Let me ask you something, and I want you to really think about it before you scroll past. If you have been drinking beet juice for your circulation and you have not noticed the dramatic improvement you were promised, what if the problem was never the beet juice? What if the problem was that beet juice, consumed the way most people drink it, is essentially running at half power inside your body after the age of 60? Not because the research is wrong, the research is extraordinary, but because there are 3 quiet biological changes happening inside you right now that are silently intercepting that benefit before it ever reaches your arteries. Cold feet that never fully warm up no matter how long you sit by the heater, legs that start to ache and feel like lead by 2 in the afternoon, hands that go numb gripping a steering wheel for less than half an hour. If any of those sound like your daily reality, I need you to hear this clearly. That is not an unavoidable feature of getting older. That is a correctable nutrient gap. And in the next several minutes, I'm going to walk you through exactly how to close it. What follows is a breakdown of the 6 most powerful additions you can make to your daily beet juice that will fundamentally change how your body responds to it. These are not random wellness tips. Each one targets a specific biological mechanism that quietly degrades after the age of 60. Some of them will double the circulatory response you get from beet juice. One of them, the one we will arrive at last, carries clinical data that permanently changed how I think about vascular nutrition in older adults. It does not simply add to what beet juice does. It repairs the structural damage that has been preventing beet juice from working properly inside your body, possibly for years. Before we go further, I want to say something about who this information is for. If you are in your late 60s, your 70s, or your 80s, and you have been told that declining circulation is simply what aging looks like, and there's nothing much to be done about it, the research does not support that conclusion, not even close. Every ingredient I'm going to describe was studied specifically in adults over 60. Every effect was measured using the same tools your cardiologist uses. None of this is theoretical, and none of it requires a prescription. Let us start with number 6, and I promise you, once you understand the biochemistry here, you will never look at a glass of beet juice the same way again. Fresh lemon juice. 1 full lemon, squeezed directly into your beet juice immediately before you drink it. This sounds almost insultingly simple, but the reason it matters is rooted in a 2-step conversion process that most people consuming beet juice have no idea is even happening. When you drink beet juice, the nitrates it contains do not become nitric oxide automatically. They go through 2 distinct conversions. First, bacteria that live on your tongue convert those dietary nitrates into nitrites. Second, your stomach environment converts those nitrites into active nitric oxide, the molecule that signals your arterial walls to relax and expand, allowing blood to flow more freely through them. Here is where the problem begins after 65. Stomach acid production declines by somewhere between 30 and 40%. Without sufficient acidity in the stomach, that second conversion stalls. A significant portion of the nitrites your body worked hard to produce in step 1 never complete the journey. They never become nitric oxide. You are consuming something genuinely powerful, and your body is treating it like flavored water. Lemon juice contains both citric acid and vitamin C. Together, they restore the acidic environment that the nitrite to nitric oxide conversion depends on. Researchers at the University of Southampton found that when vitamin C was added to dietary nitrate intake in older adults, measurable nitric oxide byproducts in the blood increased by 33% compared to nitrate consumption without it. Squeeze 1 full lemon into your beet juice right before drinking. Let the mixture sit for about 60 seconds before you consume it. That short contact time allows citric acid to prime the conversion environment before the blend ever reaches your stomach. It is a tiny change that produces a measurable difference. Number 5 is raw garlic. 1 to 2 cloves, crushed and blended directly into your juice. I know that sounds intense. Stay with me, because what garlic does alongside beet juice involves a mechanism that even many cardiologists are not discussing with their patients. Think about a man I will call Bernard. 71 years old, retired engineer, 3 years of circulation, pain in his legs, severe enough that he had stopped attending his weekly church service because the walk from the parking lot had become impossible. He had been drinking beet juice consistently for 4 months and had seen only modest improvement. When 2 cloves of raw garlic were added to his daily blend, within 5 weeks, his walking distance before pain onset had nearly doubled. His vascular specialist documented measurable improvement in his ankle brachial index at his next assessment. Here is the mechanism. When garlic is crushed, it produces a compound called allicin. Allicin directly inhibits an enzyme called ADMA, asymmetric dimethylarginine, which functions essentially as a biological brake on nitric oxide production. After 70, ADMA levels rise by an estimated 25% above normal adult levels. This is one of the primary biochemical reasons nitric oxide declines so dramatically with age, independently of everything else you may already be doing right. Beet juice delivers the raw materials for nitric oxide production. Garlic releases the brake that has been suppressing it. Researchers at the University of Alabama at Birmingham found that the combination of nitrate intake and allicin in adults over 65 produced a 28% greater improvement in arterial flexibility over 12 weeks compared to nitrate intake alone. Crush 2 raw cloves and let them rest for 10 minutes after crushing before you blend them. That resting period is not arbitrary. It maximizes allicin production. Consume the blend on an empty stomach. Edema levels peak during overnight fasting, and garlic's inhibitory effect is most powerful at exactly that moment. Number 4 is pure unsweetened raw cacao powder. 1 to 2 tablespoons blended into your juice. What cacao does works through a pathway that is completely separate from the nitrate mechanism beet juice uses, which is precisely why the combination is so remarkable. Cacao contains the highest known dietary concentration of a class of compounds called flavonols, specifically epicatechin, that activate nitric oxide production through what is called the endothelial pathway. Here's the clearest way to think about this distinction. Beet juice is a fuel delivery system. It sends raw material to your vascular cells. Cacao flavonols are a factory upgrade. They increase the production capacity of the cells that process that raw material. When you combine them, the output does not simply add together, it compounds. Harvard Medical School researchers analyzing the Cosmos Cocoa trial, which followed over 21,000 participants, found that regular flavanol-rich cacao consumption was associated with a 32% reduction in cardiovascular mortality, with that benefit most pronounced in adults over 70. A separate mechanistic study found a synergistic nitric oxide response 58% greater than either compound alone in adults averaging 71 years of age. That word, synergistic, is important. It means the combination produces an effect that exceeds what either ingredient could produce independently. After the age of 75, endothelial cells lose approximately 35% of their nitric oxide synthase activity. Cacao flavonols are among a very small number of dietary compounds shown not merely to slow that decline, but to partially reverse it. Use raw cacao powder, never Dutch processed cocoa. The alkalizing treatment used in Dutch processing destroys up to 90% of the flavanol content. Add a pinch of black pepper to your blend as well. Piperine, the active compound in black pepper, inhibits the enzyme that breaks down flavonols during digestion, extending their biological activity by up to 2 additional hours. Now, before we move into the top 3, I want to draw your attention to something important. Lemon, garlic, and cacao all work on the same primary system. They increase nitric oxide through different entry points in the same pathway. The next 3 ingredients operate on entirely different biological systems that beet juice alone, no matter how perfectly consumed, cannot reach. Even if you have been doing everything right up to this point, what follows adds circulatory mechanisms your body currently has no access to at all. Number 3 is fresh ginger root, grated raw, never powdered, because the active compounds are significantly diminished in dried form. 1 to 2 inches of fresh ginger are grated directly into your blend. The mechanism here involves something called hemorheology, the science of blood viscosity, and it explains one of the most overlooked contributors to poor peripheral circulation in older adults. After 75, blood viscosity increases by an estimated 18% above normal adult levels. Red blood cells become stiffer and less able to navigate the tiniest capillaries supplying your fingers, your toes, and the peripheral tissues throughout your body. Picture the difference between water and lightly thickened syrup moving through a very narrow straw. A small increase in thickness produces a dramatic reduction in flow, even if the straw itself has been widened. Beet juice dilates the channels. Ginger thins the fluid moving through them. One works on the pipe, the other works on what flows inside it. 2 completely independent mechanisms addressing the same underlying problem at the same time. Ginger's active compounds, gingerols and shogols, inhibit thromboxane A2 synthesis, the specific process that causes platelets to aggregate and blood to thicken. A randomized controlled trial from the University of Sydney found that adults over 65 consuming therapeutic amounts of fresh ginger showed a 23% reduction in platelet aggregation within just 4 weeks. Combined with beet juice nitrates, the researchers described the peripheral circulation improvement as exceeding the predictions of simple addition. They used the phrase true biological synergy. Grate 1 to 2 inches of fresh ginger into your blend and consume it immediately before a 10 to 15 minute walk. Movement activates gingerol compounds more rapidly. And the combination of mechanical circulation from light exercise with the pharmacological effect of the drink produces compounding benefits that persist for several hours after both stimuli have ended. Number 2 is L-arginine powder. 3 to 5 grams of pure, unflavored L-arginine stirred into your complete blend. This is the direct molecular raw material for nitric oxide production inside your vascular cells. And understanding why it belongs here requires stepping back and looking at the full picture of what you have already built. Lemon restored the conversion environment in your stomach. Garlic removed the ADMA brake, suppressing nitric oxide production. Cacao upgraded the endothelial production capacity of your vascular cells. Ginger reduced the viscosity of the blood those cells are working to move. But every factory? No. Matter how thoroughly upgraded can only produce as much output as its supply line allows. L-arginine is that supply line. Without it, the entire upgraded system remains limited not by capacity, but by raw material. Consider a man I will call Gerald, 78 years old, retired tradesman, 4 years of Raynaud's phenomenon, painful vascular spasms in his fingers triggered by cold. Temperatures. He had stopped working with his hands, a craft he had practiced for over 40 years, because he could no longer maintain grip in temperatures below 65 degrees. His physician had him on medication with only partial benefit. 3 grams of L-arginine added to his daily beet juice blend, and within 7 weeks, he experienced his first symptom-free week since the condition began. Within 5 months, his physician had reduced his medication dose based on documented clinical improvement. Researchers at Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine found that L-arginine supplementation in adults over 65 with peripheral vascular disease produced a 2% improvement in walking distance over 12 weeks, with the benefit most pronounced when it was taken alongside dietary nitrate sources, meaning beet juice E specifically. These two were designed for each other. After 70, the enzyme that recycles L-arginine within vascular cells declines by an estimated 20%. Your body needs more of it to maintain the same nitric oxide output it generated effortlessly 2 decades ago. Most people have no idea. The supply line has thinned quietly, year by year, and no one said a word about it. Stir 3 to 5 grams of L-arginine powder into your blend daily. Its vascular effects are cumulative, building sustained plasma levels over 4 to 6 weeks of consistent use. Do not take it within 2 hours of a high-fat meal because dietary fats transiently spike ADMA, the same brake that garlic inhibits. With garlic already present in your blend, that ADMA spike is simultaneously neutralized. The combination is particularly potent for exactly that reason. Now we arrive at number 1. And I want you to pay close attention here, because this one involves something that the vast majority of people throw directly in the bin every single time they buy fresh beets. Think back to the last time you purchased whole fresh beets at a market or grocery store. What did you do with the leafy green tops? If you are like almost everyone watching this right now, you pulled them off and discarded them without a second thought. I want you to sit with that for a moment, because from a vascular medicine standpoint, you may have been throwing away the most cardiovascularly significant part of the entire plant every single time. Beet greens contain a compound called betaine, also known as trimethylglycine, in concentrations 3 to 4 times higher than the beetroot itself. Betaine does not dilate blood vessels directly, it does not boost nitric oxide through the endothelial pathway, or thin your blood or inhibit ADMA. It works through an entirely different pathway, one that makes every single other ingredient on this list perform more powerfully. Betaine is the most potent dietary reducer of homocysteine found in any natural food source. Homocysteine is an amino acid that accumulates in your blood as you age. When it rises above normal levels, it acts like a corrosive agent on the inner lining of your arteries. It creates microscopic inflammation. It triggers plaque accumulation. And it progressively destroys the arterial flexibility that nitric oxide depends on in order to produce vasodilatation. Here is the devastating irony of the first 5 ingredients on this list. Every one of them has been working to produce and deliver nitric oxide to your arterial walls. But if those walls are coated in homocysteine-driven inflammation and have lost structural flexibility, nitric oxide has nothing functional to work with. The factory was supplied, upgraded, and fully fueled. Number 1 restores the structural integrity of the building it operates inside. After 65, homocysteine levels rise significantly in the majority of adults, and it is now recognized as one of the strongest independent risk factors for cardiovascular disease, stroke, and peripheral artery disease in older populations. Most patients never hear about it at a routine checkup. It does not appear on standard lipid panels. Your cholesterol numbers could look perfect while your homocysteine levels are quietly destroying your arterial walls year after year. Researchers at Wageningen University in the Netherlands found that betaine intake equivalent to 2 to 3 servings of beet greens reduced plasma homocysteine by an average of 11% over 6 weeks. A study specifically examining the combination of dietary nitrates with betaine in adults over 65 found that participants consuming both showed a 47% greater improvement in endothelial function compared to those consuming nitrates alone. 47%. That is not a marginal increase. That is the difference between a system struggling to function and a system working the way it was designed to. The mechanism is precise and worth understanding completely. Homocysteine damages the endothelial cells where nitric oxide is produced. Betaine clears the homocysteine. Beet juice nitrates then encounter a structurally intact, inflammation-free arterial surface with the capacity to fully respond. You are not just supplying the system anymore, you are restoring its ability to receive what you are sending it. Blend the greens from 2 to 3 fresh beets directly into your juice. If your beets arrive without the tops, which is increasingly common in prepackaged produce, look for beet green powder in supplement form. Approximately 500 milligrams per teaspoon is the standard concentration, and a single teaspoon added to your complete blend will deliver the equivalent betaine content. Here is what the complete preparation looks like. Your beet juice as the base, the juice of 1 full lemon squeezed in fresh, 2 cloves of raw garlic crushed and rested for 10 minutes, then blended in, 1 to 2 tablespoons of raw cacao powder, 1 to 2 inches of freshly grated ginger root, 3 to 5 grams of L-arginine powder stirred through, and the greens from 2 to 3 fresh beets, or 1 teaspoon of beet green powder. Start to finish, under 5 minutes to prepare. 6 non-overlapping biological mechanisms, addressed simultaneously in a single glass. Drink the complete preparation 90 minutes before your most physically demanding activity of the day, whether that is a morning walk, a physical therapy session, yard work, or simply the part of your day that leaves your legs aching. The nitric oxide peak occurs at approximately 90 minutes after consumption. Timing your activity to align with that peak means your peripheral circulation has maximum vasodilatory support at exactly the moment it needs it most. I want to close with something that I think matters more than any individual ingredient on this list. There is a version of the conversation about aging bodies that has become so normalized that most people never think to question it. You describe your symptoms: the cold feet, the aching legs, the hands that go numb, the walking distance that has quietly contracted over the past few years, and the response you receive is some version of "this is just part of getting older, and we will manage it." Manage it, as though the best possible outcome is simply containing the decline rather than addressing it. The research does not support that framing. Your circulation is not permanently broken. It is nutrient depleted, enzymatically undersupported, and substrate limited in ways that specific, targeted, evidence-based interventions directly and measurably address. The people who followed the research, who added lemon and restored their stomach's conversion environment, who added garlic and released the ADMA brake, who added cacao and upgraded their endothelial capacity, who added ginger and reduced blood viscosity, who added L-arginine and resupplied the raw material their system was running short on, and who stopped throwing away the beet greens and started using betaine to repair the arterial walls themselves. Those people did not simply manage a decline. They reversed a trajectory that everyone around them had accepted as inevitable. Every ingredient described here was studied in adults your age. Every mechanism described was measured with clinical tools. None of it is wishful thinking. The question is simply whether you are willing to spend 5 minutes in the morning building a preparation that your arteries have genuinely been waiting for. Start tomorrow. Squeeze the lemon, crush the garlic, blend the greens. Give your body the complete system it was designed to use, not half of it.